If you walked just 1 mile today, here's exactly what your body would do with it. This one habit costs nothing, takes 20 minutes, and quietly changes your heart, blood sugar, and brain. Of all the health advice out there, walking a mile a day sounds almost too simple to matter. No gym, no equipment, no special skill. But what most people don't realize is that this modest, ordinary habit triggers a surprising chain of changes throughout the body. Changes that compound significantly when done consistently, day after day. Let's start with the heart, since that's where the most immediate benefits show up. Walking is a form of moderate aerobic activity, meaning it raises your heart rate just enough to strengthen the heart muscle without overloading it. Over weeks of daily walking, your resting heart rate typically drops, a sign that your heart has become more efficient at pumping blood with each beat. Blood pressure tends to improve as well, since regular movement helps blood vessels stay more flexible and responsive rather than stiff and constricted. There's also a meaningful effect on circulation. Each step contracts the muscles in your legs, which helps push blood back up toward the heart through a mechanism sometimes called the second heart or the calf muscle pump. For older adults, especially, this can reduce the pooling of blood in the lower legs that contributes to swelling and, in some cases, lowers the risk of blood clots forming in the legs during long periods of inactivity. Walking also has a direct effect on blood sugar regulation. When your muscles are active, they pull glucose from the bloodstream more efficiently, even without the involvement of insulin. Research has shown that a walk after meals, even a short one, can measurably blunt the blood sugar spike that follows eating, which matters significantly for anyone managing prediabetes, insulin resistance, or type 2 diabetes. Bone and joint health benefit too, something people don't usually associate with walking. It's a weight-bearing activity, meaning your bones have to support your body weight against gravity with every step. This mechanical stress signals bone-building cells to stay active, helping to slow the natural bone density loss that comes with age. At the same time, walking lubricates the joints by encouraging the flow of synovial fluid, which can actually reduce stiffness in people with mild arthritis. Contrary to the instinct to rest a stiff joint completely, then there's the impact on mental health, which is often understated. Walking increases blood flow to the brain and triggers the release of endorphins and other mood-regulating chemicals. Multiple studies have linked regular walking to reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression, as well as improved sleep quality, likely due to a combination of physical exertion, exposure to daylight, and the simple mental break that comes from stepping outside a routine. Finally, walking a mile daily supports weight management, not dramatically on its own, but consistently. A mile burns roughly 80 to 100 calories, depending on pace and body weight. That may sound small, but over a year, done daily, it adds up to a meaningful amount of extra energy expenditure, especially when it's a habit you can sustain indefinitely, rather than short bursts of intense exercise you eventually abandon. None of this requires speed or intensity. A steady, comfortable pace, done consistently, is enough to trigger these changes over time. If you started walking a mile a day today, you likely wouldn't feel much different tomorrow. But the body doesn't work in single days. It works in cumulative adaptation. And that's where the real story of daily walking unfolds. In the first week, most of what's happening is neurological and muscular, not yet visible. Your muscles, particularly in the calves, thighs, and hips, Begin adjusting to the repeated load. If you've been relatively sedentary, you might notice mild soreness in the first few days as those muscles reactivate. This is normal and typically resolves within a week as your body adapts. By the second week, cardiovascular changes start becoming more noticeable. Many people report feeling less winded during the same walk they found mildly challenging just days earlier. This isn't your fitness dramatically improving overnight. It's your heart and lungs becoming more efficient at delivering oxygen to working muscles, a process that begins remarkably fast once consistent movement starts. Around the 3 to 4 week mark, several studies on walking interventions show measurable changes. Modest reductions in resting blood pressure, improved insulin sensitivity, and early shifts in resting heart rate. Sleep quality often improves around this point as well, partly due to the physical activity itself and partly due to more consistent exposure to daylight, which helps regulate your circadian rhythm. By 30 days of consistent daily walking, many people notice a difference in mood and energy levels that's harder to quantify, but very real to those experiencing it. This is partly physiological, more efficient oxygen delivery, better blood sugar regulation, improved sleep, and partly psychological. The simple satisfaction of maintaining a consistent habit tends to reinforce itself, making the walk feel less like a chore and more like a fixed, welcome part of the day. Longer term, beyond 30 days, the benefits compound further. Studies following walking habits over months and years have associated consistent walking with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, improved bone density retention in older adults, better long-term blood sugar control, and even associations with a lower risk of cognitive decline, though this last connection is still being actively researched. Now, a few important notes on who should approach this carefully. If you have significant joint pain, particularly in the knees or hips, starting with shorter distances and gradually building up is far safer than jumping straight into a full mile. The same applies to anyone with a history of heart disease, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or recent surgery. A conversation with your doctor before starting any new walking routine is a sensible first step, not an overly cautious one. For people managing diabetes, walking is broadly beneficial, but those on insulin or certain blood sugar medication should be aware that exercise can lower blood sugar further. So, monitoring levels, especially when starting a new routine, matters. And for anyone recovering from illness, surgery, or a long period of inactivity, the goal isn't to force a full mile on day one. Even 5 or 10 minutes of walking, built up gradually over several weeks, delivers meaningful benefit and is a far more sustainable starting point than an ambitious goal that leads to burnout or injury within the first week.